for my debut, I have to honor my Black queer poetic traditions and authors and poets that have meant so much to me. I have to, or it won't mean anything to me.
What's good? I'm Nikisha Elise Williams, and this is Black and Published, bringing you the journeys of writers, poets, playwrights, and storytellers of all kinds. Today's guest is Dior J. Stevens, author of the poetry collection, Cruel, Cruel. A book Dior says forced him to confront his anger and do something different with his rage.
Hope wasn't necessarily present, maybe in the forefront or the consciousness of my mind. One of my favorite songs is called Hope is a Dangerous Thing for a Woman Like Me to Have, but I Have It. And just like that sentence, it is a dangerous thing to have. It's a very dangerous thing to have and to hold, but you gotta have it.
Dior began holding on to hope by learning to sit in stillness, face his reflection, and just be, a practice he now shares with his students. Why he encourages them to fail as much as he encourages them to be great. Plus, the advice he would give to his younger self who didn't think he'd live past the age of 27. And why he thinks popular hashtags like Black Girl Magic, Black Boy Joy, and Black Excellence are limiting. That and more is next, when Black and Published continues. Content trigger warning. There is a discussion of self-harm and suicide attempts toward the end of the conversation. Please be gentle with your heart when listening. All right, well then, Dior, let's just jump into it. When did you know that you were a writer?
I am a writer, but I also, first and foremost, consider myself an artist and an interdisciplinary artist. But I think particularly with writing, I started reading at a pretty early age, somewhere around 3. And something I'm really grateful for growing up with my family. If I ever wanted a book, I was almost never told no. It just was something, whether I had to go to the library and get it, or whether we bought it, I was almost always given a book that I wanted. And that I just was reading books like there was no tomorrow. I think I read more back then than I do now in certain ways. But I think early on, I just knew, oh, I like words and I like what words can do. And most of the people in my family they're not necessarily creative writers. They're either people in the legal field or in the tech field writing in some ways. And so I always had this certain amount of like writing influence around me. I think I was just the first one to sort of do a little creative spin on this.
So then do you remember the first thing that you wrote that made you be like, I'm good at this. This is my gift?
I had a really strong emo phase from I want to say 9 to 12 or 13. I really did. And something I would do is I would take a song and then I would just try to find an instrumental and then I would write my own lyrics to it. If I couldn't find an instrumental, I would just keep listening to it and try to ignore the words and try to find the cadence of how they were singing it or the beat they were flying or flowing through. And I would just do that. So somewhere in the early 2000s when I started doing that in a sort of slightly embarrassing manner.
So with you knowing that you were a writer since the youngest of ages and you following that in a career path, you've gone on to college, you've got an MFA, you're in a PhD program, you haven't deviated from the path. What is it about words and writing that has sustained you so much in your life?
Actually, most of my life, there were 2 art forms that were the biggest and most important to me. And the first one was theater and theater performance. And that was most of my main focus and concern from about 8 years old when I started the Cleveland Playhouse Theater, taking classes and workshops there, up until my undergrad degree is actually in theater with a sort of secret minor in creative writing. And then
Not
after
a secret minor.
I didn't want to declare it. And so I did it. But I took a lot of classes in it. I even went to a whole J term in Paris about it, but I didn't want to claim it fully. And then after I graduated the undergrad, I was like, you know what, Dior, we've been focusing on theater for this whole time. And I just kind of had this moment where I was like, you've always loved writing and you've been writing this whole time. So what if we just like put theater on the shelf for a little while, but let's give this writing thing a bit more of a chance, right? And so that was about, 21, 22. And then I took a couple of years in between my undergrad and my MFA, and I lived abroad actually a bit in my last couple of years in my undergrad, but then I moved to Madrid in Spain. And I just wanted to really give myself a chance, like as a writer. And I knew I wanted to be somewhere. I had no idea where I was. And so there is really where I think it started to kind of come to fruition in my mind and then for myself. And I just kind of started to take, I was always writing poems, always, but I think I started to take the craft a bit more seriously. I started to consider it as maybe the like, primary and foremost artistic concern in my life for the first time. And I think that quite major shift and dedication was kind of that deviation almost away from theater and into writing poetry.
All right, so I read the book Cruel Cruel, and I saw that you have several publications before this one. So if you've always been writing poems and you say you have this stack of journals, when did that first inkling come to you that, all right, I'm taking the craft seriously, I'm getting my MFA, it's time to put out a book?
I was teaching English as a second language while I was in Madrid, and I had a friend back in the States who was also a creative writer, and she really like loved my work, and I didn't really share it with a lot of people in those early days. So she was one of the very few, and I still really appreciate her for this. And she saw some opportunity for Ghost City Press. They have a summer series every year where they publish a chapbook a day for every day of the summer, which is a really massive undertaking. And she was like, I think you need to like submit some of your work for this. And I was like, oh, damn, like, like this is kind of the moment, right? Like, oh, and I was nervous because I really, I've been writing so much, but I was like, that's for me. And she was very like pushing me. And sometimes I need that, a good, strong push. And I said, all right, fine. I definitely have enough material. So let me go ahead and do this. And that became my first chapbook, Screams in Lavender. And I just went ahead and submitted it. And once I got that acceptance from Ghost City, who then went on to publish my next two projects, I was just like floored.
What year was Screams in Lavender that it came out?
That was 2016.
That seems like a whole lifetime ago.
Doesn't it? Like, I was thinking about that last night. I was going through photos and I was looking at 2016 and I was like, what? Like, when? Where? How? Like, what? Yeah, lifetime ago.
It seems like a whole lifetime ago. And so if you did that while you were in Madrid, so then is now Cruel Cruel the collection of work that you worked on in your MFA program after you
Correct.
came?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk about that
Yes,
process a bit?
absolutely. I am a very like spiritual person in a lot of ways. And when I finally made it up my mind that I wanted to get an MFA, I went to California College of the Arts in the Bay Area. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be here for 2 years. And at the end of this 2 years, whatever I'm writing and working on, I want that to be my dissertation. And I want that to get published within the first year of me leaving or graduating.
Come on, goals.
Come on, goals, come on, ancestors, come on, God, because somehow Jesus. Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just so grateful that I had such incredible professors. Tanya Foster is a huge, huge influence on this work. Also was one of the editors. Really appreciate Trisha Lowe as well, who took this book to Night Boat. At that point in my life as a writer, I knew I had something. I knew I had talent to some extent, but I knew I needed a bit more help with the craft, with the mastery, with learning and reading the greats and what's come before and the traditions of poetry, Black poetic tradition, queer poetic tradition, etc. I needed that sort of like discipline that school provides, like deadlines and you have this in at a certain time. And even actually the entire middle section of this book, which is my favorite part of the book, was a challenge from Tanya Foster. It was the cruelest month, April, which is also Poetry Month. And she challenged us to write a poem a day. And I remember looking at her dead in the face, being like, Tanya, come on now. Like, this is too much. Like you got to relax. Like, no one has that much material. And she said no. Again, a push from someone. And voila, my favorite part of the section or part of the book is that section. But I basically had this, I want to say maybe halfway done, and then COVID happened, which is a good amount of work in this book, 2020 in general, more so than just COVID. And it really blew up then for me because, I was at home. I was in the house, which I think you can pretty much tell in a couple of these poems. And so we get to finally 2021, and we're back in person. And that, I think it was the last semester for me. And again, Trisha Lowe was my professor. And I'm pretty sure I can tell this story now. I'm like pretty sure I can tell the story. But she, at the end of the semester, I'm near graduating. I defend the thesis, and then I think about a week or two, or maybe even a couple of weeks more after, I get an email from Trisha, and she's like, "Hey, I have just basically become an editor at large at Nightboat Books, and if it would be okay with you, I would really love to take Cruel and pitch it to them as one of my first projects I want to share." And she was like asking permission. And I was like, "Girl, what the hell? Yeah." I was like, "Why are you asking? You should have done it already." And
that part. What you asking me for?
Yeah, like stop asking. And so she did. She did, and she said, "No, no promises. It's just, I believe in this work. And again, no expectations, but I want to just take this on as one of the first projects as an editor that I bring to Nightboat." And then, thank my ancestors and my angels, one day she got back to me and she was like, "They love it and they want to speak to you." That conversation happened, I want to say June. I was staying with my aunt Veronica Henry and my uncle Eric Deal, who's a filmmaker and screenwriter. And I had a meeting coming up with Trisha and the editors at Nightboat. And they hopped on the Zoom. We all hopped on the Zoom, and they were just very, very, very lovely and sweet and kind about the work and excited. They were really excited. And I got off and they offered, to publish it and what it would look like and everything. And I got off that call. I was in another room and my aunt and uncle were working in their office. And I went into the office and I kind of just walked in and they all started looking at me and we started looking at each other. And then I just started crying. And they just started clapping and cheering and dancing and jumping around. And it didn't have to be said. And I will never forget that. I know exactly where I was as I crumpled to the floor. I know where they were dancing around in the office. And that was really, really special for them to have been some of my earliest, if not the first, kind of people to, again, push me into writing, and for them to be the first people who then heard the news of this book becoming a reality. That was really special.
That's awesome. So yeah, let's get into Cruel. Can you read something from the collection and then we can get into it more?
Absolutely.
Cruel, the debut poetry collection from Dior J. Stevens, is divided into 3 acts and examines self-worth and value, languishing during the early days of the COVID pandemic, and being incited to move beyond the rage of living Black and queer in America into the abundance of hope. Identity be damned. Here's Dior.
Okay, this is from the first section of the book. Probably my second favorite section, actually. Once again. Once again, anticipating chemtrails of yesteryear to sprinkle over me, warm like I've forgotten. Once again, mama, once again, unnamed, or I refuse to give you name, feign Alzheimer's, early onset. I know the Mary ain't helping. You hush now. Ooh, once again, clutching diamond ancestry. Yes, I speak of ancestry lined with diamonds and ivory blood. Leon, you captive. If I go home, when I go home, will I go home? Do you have a home for my baggage? Once again, blink fast. Big girls don't cry. Big boys pay bills. Fuck bitches, get money. Once again, mind endless. Once again, scroll infinities laced in front lines, good times, mostly lapsed. Once again, Sign here, kiss me. Sign here, kiss me. Initial there, rapture thee. All right, this is interlude beta. I spill my body languages out willingly onto your concrete walls. An 8 count of rapture, a falsetto for 90-degree bends and tongues spoken into themselves. Here, in the palace of ancestral irony, we knock borders until the courtyard slips on her nightdress. You close the shutters 'cause this ain't a ritual for listening. It's a lambasting of every smashed piano that made you a man. And don't I croon for you? Like so? Like a caretaker of a half-widened well, trusting rim spokes, 'cause the syncope ain't synced in since the Sunday of half memory. Looky here at the pot calling the kettle a salt fiend. When you move, don't forget to leave trinkets of your treasures with those who trifled it. Gray wash mornings planning permanent residency, residing on lines anxious to be redrawn. Cackling fire pit forests anticipate another hot, hot, hot summer. The streets cutting up and the lines getting long again. Frail fraughts brought back to the shores they exiled, a coconut with becoming hairs, oasis of the kingdom. 11:15 a.m., listening to warm tones. Sunbaby sent a honeybee to watch me from the window, but I smashed it with my sting. Fear has become the primary motive of the categorically denominated. This is Untitled Yellow Page 12. Want to write in this gold while it lasts? See, where I live, my very breath is my damnation. Want to sit in this gold and talk a while to the she we all believe should be. Want to ignore your texts and snag bite double time on raw lip. Want to wear scandalous skivvies for an audience of one. Want to see Floyd breathing and don't want to talk about it. Want to stop feeling white gaze, white gaze. Want to be religionless, since no God we know of makes sense of this. Want to slide locks open with my pinky nail. Surprise bamboo men with my ladylike shrine of pulled split ends and still don't want to talk about it. Want to give every Black body a medal and a collection of plastic bags from under the sink. You'll need them. Want to give respite, yet instead biting raw lips to mimic violence. Stomping on revenge's pudgy toes is the only cleansing I know. Want to see smooth skies lined. Want to see twist become shout. Thank you so much. I really doubted that ending. I was like, oh, I don't know. That seems a little lame.
Why do you think that?
When I first wrote it and was like, for a while considering, I was like, oh, I mean, that's a song, Dior. Like, it's like a whole thing. Like, write something of your own, stupid. And then, for a while, I really, really was like unsure. I was like, maybe we should just not cut out those last 2 pages. And, even one of my editors was kind of like, I agree. I won't say who. And then the rest, though, I love them regardless. I love them regardless. But then the rest of them, though, were like, absolutely not. And even like other friends were like, beloveds who I shared the work with in its earlier stages were like, absolutely not. And I was like, why? And they were like, there's just something, I don't know.
It's the imagery. It's the imagery and it's not the twist. When I read those lines, want to see twist become shout, I think twisting in the wind that conjures, of course, strange fruit. And you have the reference to George Floyd in there earlier in the stanzas. So conjures to mind unrest. And
Mm.
then when you say you want to see twist become shout, shout is release. Shout is like
Yes.
Sunday morning in church. Shout is rejoicing. It's jubilee. And so to see twist become shout is like you're going from this state of anguish to this state of
Mm.
joy. And given the whole collection, I think that is a perfect ending. But don't let me explain your work to you since you wrote it.
Oh my God. I literally have goosebumps. Like, I'm so just grateful to hear and receive that. Thank you so much because it took me a while to get there. And there's so much anger and anguish in this book. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people
Mm-hmm.
don't know that. This book is really angry, in a lot of different ways. And I needed to write this book. I needed to write this book and have that anger be true and present. And one day, after kind of realizing that, I reread that poem. And I was like, oh, I do want Twist to become Shout. I
Yeah.
do want that. Like, and then it all kind of finally, thank the Lord, made sense.
So, what I noticed about your collection is that I felt like once again, the first section is focused on identity. The middle section, Cruel, Cruel, I felt like it was maybe a languishing. And then,
Mm,
and seeing the dates from April 2020, that's pre George Floyd. And then Untitled Yellow Pages, I felt like was everything after this. So then the rage is really like high, and then it ends on the joyful note of you wanting to see the twist become shout. Was that intentional in the way that you laid out the structure of this book, or did it just happen organically?
kind of going back to my love of theater, even before I had all of these like three sections, I knew I wanted this to be a three-act structure. I really wanted to get that rising exposition. We get it a bit of a climax, and I wanted to calm it all back down somehow. I didn't know how, I didn't know what the work was going to be, but I knew early on, especially, I think, yeah, the first thing I wrote was the first section. Once again, I was in an airport, and I love writing in airports. I almost always write some bomb stuff in an airport. And once I finished that, I was like, oh yeah, we got that tension. That's there. It's definitely there. And so then again, the second part came when Tanya pushed us to write a poem a day. And I was so not into it. I was like, God, girl, no. Again, had some more things kind of going on in my life. And obviously we're in COVID now. And I knew that I didn't want to write a COVID book, right? Like that's what the dates did for me. I wanted people to know that's what space we were all in collectively,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not really about that. It's influenced by it. And so I guess once I got that work done, I was like, oh, okay, I do a lot of meditation and yoga. And I was like, okay, now it's time to sort of like Shavasana, right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
slow this down a little bit. Let's get some deep breaths in here. What is after the first and second act? In theater, that's usually when things kind of get wrapped up or left in more of a mystery, whatever the case may be. So I got really worried for a while because I was like, I don't want to leave this book with just anger and hurt and anguish, especially for my primary readers who I want to be, my Black and queer folk. I was like, I don't want to leave us in that. It's true to our experience. It's so much of it. But I just felt it would be wrong to end this book with all of that. But I wanted to end it in a certain amount of stillness. And it's funny because hope wasn't necessarily present, maybe in the forefront or the consciousness of my mind. I had a really hard time with the concept of hope for a very long time, a very difficult time. Actually, one of my favorite songs is called Hope is a Dangerous Thing for a Woman Like Me to Have, but I have it. And just like that sentence, it is a dangerous thing to have. It's a very dangerous thing to have and to hold, but you gotta have it. You gotta have it. And so that kind of led me through writing Untitled Yellow Pages and ending on that note.
You talking about hope makes me think of the Bible verse from Hebrews 11. Now,
Mm,
faith is the confidence in things not seen, and hope for the things wished for, something like that. And then maybe
hmm
finished. But I mentioned that because as you're over here and nodding, I can tell that you were a church child. And you have a few references to Christianity specifically, but also to Islam. And you've
Mhm.
mentioned that, you go to your ancestors, you believe in God, you seek Jesus. So, what role has religion and spirituality played, not only in this collection, but on your life as a creative, as a Black queer creative, and out about that?
Absolutely. I grew up in a very non-traditionally religious family. We didn't go to church, but we were kind of like how I am now, very spiritual people. We would maybe kind of, my mom and them would probably definitely consider themselves Christians. I would maybe now more consider myself maybe post-Christianity in certain ways. But I grew up going to Catholic school from preschool to eighth grade, where I was given the choice to either continue in Catholic school or go to public school. And I was like, get me out. But I did have that foundation. And my dad's side of the family is staunchly Baptist, like very staunchly Baptist. So every once in a while I was in those churches too. So I kind of had Catholicism and baptism like as the main, and they're very funny to mix. But those were the two that were the main influences in my life. And I mentioned theater being a huge influence on like my appreciation and love for language, but so is the Bible. And
Mm.
so is the Psalms and the Proverbs and just like how that language in the Bible is crafted. And I read that stuff forward and backward and forward for a very long time, right? So there's certain ways in which like people almost always mention a sort of biblical twinge to my work. And I wish I could say I was trying for it. It just kind of is in my body. It's just sort of in there in a lot of ways. And so I'm always honoring that to a certain extent. And I'm grateful for it because there's something just that has a certain reverence to not only, the Bible, but also the Quran, which I began to explore Islam a little bit more in my MFA. I had this moment where during the pandemic, I downloaded the Quran app and, I knew very little. I just downloaded it because I was interested. And I remember very vividly the first time, it's meant to be sung. And the first time I pressed play, I was sitting in my bed and I was like, wow. I was just like floored on a deep, deep spiritual level. And I would say if those are two polar, foundations of this book in a sort of spiritual sense, it's the Quran and the Bible, definitely.
So, with those influences grounding you spiritually and informing some of your work, you talk about making sure that as you were getting ready to put this book out, that you were, I guess, upholding
Mhm.
expectations in a way of what was expected of Black poets and what was expected of queer poets. Do you feel like the bar is higher because you identify in those ways than it would be for someone else?
Absolutely. 1,200%. Yes. I think immediately of that incredible, I'm sure we all know it, that line from Scandal where Papa Pope is going up on Olivia, right? And he says, what if I told you? You have to be what?
Twice as good
Twice as good to
to
get
get
what?
half as
Half.
much. Half.
And I was told that as a child. I was told it as a teen. I was told it as an adult. Okay, like you have to be twice as good. Just my whole life, I've operated under that to some detriment, sure, but also to a lot of success and greatness. Anxiety is real. But shout out, mom. You did a great job. I love you. But like, and so it's just that too a bit is that it's a very unfortunate reality, but it is a goddamn reality. We do, in a lot of ways, have to rise so far above. And I appreciate that my family instilled that in me because I don't let myself settle for less. Even with myself, I really am my own worst slash greatest slash a little bit too mean sometimes critic. Like I really can be. I have several friends tell me to calm down when I'm speaking to myself. And so I think when I was writing this book, I was just like, I have to really, as much as I can for my debut, I have so much left to do in this life, but for my debut, I have to honor my Black queer poetic traditions and authors and poets that have meant so much to me. I have to, or it won't mean anything to me. Right. But it was just, it had to be the focus for me.
With that said, like I know that, being drilled, you got to be twice as good to get half as much. I know that's tiring. So that's not my question. I think my question is, does it feel limiting? Because if you're always working toward excellence, you don't let yourself explore what could be unless you already think it is. And that, in a way, seems very limiting, especially in the composition of creative work. Like sometimes it's not going to always be good, but if you're
Come
telling
on.
yourself it's not good enough to even start, you're losing before you put anything down. So do you find that limiting?
1,000%, yes. We are in therapy, working on it still. For real. I actually talked to this a lot, or about this a lot, with one of my best friends, Taylor Bias, whose book is coming out later this year. We talk about this a lot, especially as also an academic. She's finishing up her time here at the PhD at UC, and it's great to be, Black girl magic, Black boy magic, Black excellence. It's really fun. It's great, but it is extremely limiting. You don't feel like you have enough space to take an L every now and then, to slip up, for God's sake. It's like, and especially for me, as you mentioned, sometimes it gets so in my head, and I have so many ideas all the time. But then I'm like, it's not cooked enough yet. It's not good enough yet. And we're gonna have to wait. That's not right. That is not right. Artistry is so much about failure. It's about
Hmm.
trying and slipping and being like, oh, that was a little messy, but actually part of that mess I want to take and celebrate. And even the other parts that I don't want, I used to just like throw away anything I didn't use, right? Poems, art, whatever. I don't do that anymore, because you'll be surprised, or I surprise myself with why, in the way in which, like, a year later, 6 months later, you'll be like, oh, and then you're on to some other thing. And I just didn't used to even let myself do that. If it wasn't perfect, if it wasn't all the way up there, it had to go. It is limiting. And it is something I think about a lot as an educator, in terms of when I'm working with particularly Black students. I'm just like, how do I encourage you to be great, but also encourage you to fail? Encourage you to allow yourself to mess up, encourage you to be human and flawed, right? We are not these monuments of perfection, and nor can we be.
When you talk about that and you mention, the famous hashtags, Black Girl Magic, Black Boy Joy, all of those things,
Right.
it's like a trap.
Yes.
It's, it's a trap. Like it's great and it's affirming, yes. But underneath that is almost like the sinister push that, you have to be the best and you have to be exemplary all the time and you have to always be on and make it look easy and
Oh,
sprinkle some fairy pixie dust on it and you have Black girl magic because we're fabulous and we woke up like this and we're
right.
always joyous and it's a trap. It's a trap in that it forces you to be one dimensional and does not allow you to be fully human in a way. And like I feel like if anything, that middle section is kind of what you're exploring specifically in the poem Reflection, because it's very
Yes.
intimate to observe your own reflection and to look back at yourself and to see what it is that you're feeling and see that come across your face and your body. What do you
Ooh.
want readers to take from your collection that you're giving us here?
Thank you for bringing up reflection. It's actually kind of really speaking to something I'm thinking about a lot lately, and actually quite a bit, in terms of Black men, queer or otherwise, but anyone really, that this world does not, this, white supremacist, patriarchal BS society that we operate and somehow thrive in, does not encourage us to look at ourselves. It does not encourage us to sit in that mirror and really just look, get ugly with it, cry until you snot, and if you need to. So if there's something I want readers to take away from this, is I was very afraid of my anger for a very long time. I
Hmm.
was afraid of it. I didn't want to engage with it. I didn't even want to think about it. I knew it was there, and it came out in unhealthy ways in a lot of places and times in my life. But once I finally, it took a long time. It took a long time. So if it takes you a long time, let it, try to let it take it a long time as healthily as you can. But if you can, along that journey, just look at yourself in silence with no one else around, not even your favorite music playing, nothing, silence. And look and talk to yourself. People think talking to yourself is crazy. I talk to myself all the time, child. Okay, look, you got to talk to yourself. Be in dialogue with yourself and your ancestors and your angels and your God. You have to. There's just no other way to do it for real. We can perform and fake it till you make it till the day you die, but one of the most fulfilling things in my life has been realizing that sure, there are really scary, dark parts of me, but you know what? The darkness in the light and the lightness in the dark, we are all of it. You aren't just one of it, and you can't be. The more you try to deny any other part, it's to your detriment, it's to your downfall. And for a long time, I didn't want to look at that darkness. And that's why there's a whole section of this book that is Black on white text. That means a lot to me.
How is this journey of discovering stillness and the
Mm.
importance of breath and the releasing of tension influencing you as you compose new work in your PhD program?
God, is there any stillness in the PhD program? Who knows? But, you know, it's funny because I don't know if it's going to make any sense, but I could not have done what I'm doing now at any other point in my life.
Mm.
And I think it does take a certain amount of knowing yourself, knowing you as an artist, knowing that that can't be shaped. I, and I really am so grateful for this, have never been as confident in my work as I am now.
Mm.
And not only am I confident in my work, but so excited to know that I have so much left to do and so much growth left. That's like, it just makes me happy. And it's like, wow, that's cool. Like, that's so cool. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm turning 30, and I'm like, I didn't, and that's actually something else. I didn't mention it. Something else I really want readers to take away from this book. For a very long time, I didn't think I would live this long. I didn't think I would live past 27
7.
even.
Yeah, you have that in the book.
Hmm. I really, really, you could ask any of my friends who know me that long. I did not have any plans of living this long. And I've said this to some people and other things, like, if there's anything really I want readers to take away is that I desperately beg people, especially my Black queer youth, because I know how hard that is. It sounds cheesy as all hell, but it does get better. It really, really does. It really does. Just keep waking up to that next tomorrow and keep trying to do better for yourself and not anybody else. Because when you get to that space, when you get to this, you look back at feeling that way and you're like, why would I ever have thought that? How silly, how short sighted of me. And I just sometimes wish I could teleport to Dior in like 2011, 2015, 2013 and be like, baby, like, you just got to hold on a little bit. You just don't even know.
Mm.
And that is really like, there's so much about this book that I love, but that when I look at this book, it reminds me that I don't really know anything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anything. Like, I would have never been able to tell you at 23, 24, 25, 26, even that this in this moment would be here for me like this. And again, that's God, that's my ancestors, that's my angels, my people here on this earth who pray for me so heavily. And I'm so grateful for it. And I just wouldn't have, I would have missed all of this. Then what a shame that would have been.
Mm. I want to move on, but the journalist in me
Mhm.
wants to ask the question. So
Yeah.
please don't think me insensitive. But why did you not think that you would be here past the age of 27? Was it something that was
Absolutely.
it self harm that you, because of what you were going through growing up Black and queer as a Black queer young boy?
Mhm. And no, this is totally not insensitive. I think actually we need to have these conversations more, especially from my queer youth because I don't think we talk about it enough. No, it was. It was quite a bit of self harm in a myriad of forms and fashions and manners. And maybe more pressingly, was a desperately low sense of self worth and value. I write a lot about value. Even still, I'm writing a lot about
The
value.
first part of Once Again is about worth.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. That's you're right, and that is how we start the book,
That's
right?
how
That
the
is
book starts.
exactly
Yep.
exactly right. Thank you. You read this book. Thank you.
Yes.
And like I just really did not love myself for a very long time. For a very, very long time, I was not looking in that mirror. I was not allowing myself to sit still and look at myself. I was not allowing myself to look at the sort of traumas that happened early in my life and maybe even in my early 20s that just devastated me in a lot of ways. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to think about it. I just wanted to have a good time. I wanted to whatever, and then just let's be done at 27 because it's been too much. That was my whole like thought process. Like it's been cool, y'all. Let's wrap this up. But I just had to. I got to a point where I was like, you know what? And this is kind of funny thinking about failure again. I've failed in ending my life quite a few times. I've failed. Thank the Lord, I did quite a few times. And I thought, okay, then there's a reason. So then, damn, I can't even do that right. What are we doing? And that one sort of like inquiry and question sort of opened up so much for me. I don't want to get emotional right now. It just allowed me to give myself a chance for myself, not
Hmm.
for anybody else, for me. I love, I have so much love for people in this world, but I had to realize finally that I need to love myself or nothing else is worth it. And that, yeah, this is really a testament to finally, thank God. And, still, again, it's an ongoing journey. It's not just one and done to kind of coming on the other side of that and seeing how, again, short sighted that whole thought train was.
It's almost as if Cruel Cruel is a manifestation of what there was to live for
Mm.
in your twist becoming Shout.
I
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that. I was afraid to publish this book for a while. Actually, I was like, oh God, this is going to be your debut. It's so angry. It's like, can we do something else, boo? And then I got to a point where I was like, there's no other way this can begin. There's no other way this journey can begin. This has to be it.
I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. I really
Thank you very
am.
much. I really
Um,
appreciate
so I want to move to a speed round in the game before I let you go for the
it.
morning.
Ooh, okay, fun.
What is your favorite book?
Ooh, The Little Prince. I read that as a kid, and if not that, it's Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin.
Who's your favorite author?
James Baldwin.
Who is your favorite poet?
I think of like my two poetry dads all the time. It's JB, James Baldwin, and Allen Ginsberg.
What is the difference between poetry and spoken word?
Ooh, spoken word. So both are performance in certain ways, but I think a lot of poets wouldn't like to acknowledge that poetry is performance to a certain extent. And the spoken word artists are all about that. They know that language is not only what is on this 2D dimension of the page, language is meant to be, and it always has been historically sung, orated, shared aloud. And that's why spoken word artists really got the stuff.
Name a poet who you think doesn't get enough shine or people don't know enough about.
A. Vincent and Brianna Grogan.
What is your favorite song?
I don't know if I can just pick one. Oh my God. Okay. I'm just gonna give you this one for today. Is it a crime? Sade.
Name three things on your bucket list.
Ooh, um, it's kind of broad, but I want to travel the world. I want to see this whole big, beautiful world. There's so much of it that I just desperately want to see. And I was, as a kid, my family really instilled the importance of travel in me, and we traveled a lot. So I just want to travel till the day I die. I want to travel. Two, I want to, in some way, shape, or form, work with Rihanna and Solange. I don't care if I'm writing for them or if I am in a Fenty show or if I like in a performance salon. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. And the third would be I don't know how it would have come about. I'm not really the best singer in the world, but I want to make like one album.
I love that. Um, so you've mentioned a few times that you are an interdisciplinary artist.
Yes.
What is your hidden talent that we don't know about?
Ooh, I'm like secretly a really good dancer. Dance was one of the first things I ever knew to do. There's actually plenty of pictures and videos of me at different restaurants, especially Joe's Crab Shack, doing the Michael Jackson dance all up and down the restaurant. Okay. Like you couldn't stop me. Like I love, I still dance. It's like, oh, I'm telling you, my mom will find that picture right now. She has it, I'm sure. Like I
It's the
just
Joe's Crab Shack for me. It
I'm glad you
really
knew it. I'm
is.
glad you knew
It
it.
really
I
is.
love Joe's Crab Shack, okay? I loved Joe's Crab Shack. And I was in there dancing like all the time in somebody's house, on the street, in church. Like I was dancing, okay? And I still do it. I love to dance. It's holy for me. It's like a holy act. Like it's when you really get in the zone, you're up there with them. It's like, that's it. That's it.
What brings you joy, Dior?
Oh my God. What brings me joy? Um, Genuinely like being with my beloveds and like living life together, whatever that may be, whatever that looks like. It could be as simple as sitting in silence and reading books together or, being at the Taj Mahal. Like, I just want to do a lot of my life with my beloveds.
And what brings you peace?
Nature, water, silence.
All right. So our game is called Rewriting the Classics.
Ooh.
Name one book you wished you would have written.
I reread Giovanni's Room at least once a year, and I'm like, God damn. I'm like, did you get there before me? How did you do it? And I always think I want to, in my life, want to write at least one novel. I don't know when, but at some point in my life, I've got one good novel for y'all. I really do. But I always read that, and I'm like, because it was the poetry of it. I was like, this is a poetry book, basically, that's a novel, like, and vice versa. I was just
You can do a
still
novel in verse.
a great other example, maybe if I could add a second as I'm continuing to do the autobiography of Red by Anne Carson. When I read that, I was like, oh, 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 like, okay. So if those two, whenever that novel comes out, it's going to be some marriage of those two books.
All right. Name one book where you want to change the ending, and how would you do it?
Great Gatsby. It's one of my favorite books ever of all time. And dang, that book just ends so like, it doesn't have to be a happy ending, but can something go right? Like, geez. Like, damn. Can somebody have a little joy? Geez, something like it's just like, blah, it's over. Blah. Like, oh, oh.
So I've had a lot of people name The Great Gatsby for the next question I'm about to ask you, which is name a book that you think is overrated and why.
Moby Dick. Like what? What? Like what? It's a whale. I love whales, but like what? Like what? I just don't understand. I'm always like, what is going on here? I missed this wave, apparently.
Why
Like,
are we here for 1,000 pages about this whale?
someone should have told him to stop, Lord. Like, why? But yeah.
All right, Dior, my final question for you today.
Yes.
When you are dead and gone and among the ancestors, what do you want someone to write about the legacy of words and work that you left behind?
Wow. Oh man. I want them to write and or say that he left it all on the table. He left it all on the table and he did it for everyone who was coming after him. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dior. Big thank you to Dior J. Stevens for being here today on Black and Published. Make sure you check out Dior's debut poetry collection, Cruel, Cruel, out now from Nightboat Books. And if you're not following Dior, follow him on the socials. He's at Dolphin Neptune on Twitter and at Dolphin Photos on Instagram. That's our show for the week. If you like this episode and want more Black and Published, head to our Instagram page. It's at Black and Published, and that's BLK and Published. There, I've posted a bonus clip from my interview with Dior about pursuing his PhD after getting an MFA. Make sure you check it out and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll holla at y'all next week when our guest will be Derek Harrell, author of the poetry collection, Come Kingdom.
I'm from Milwaukee, and we hustlers. And sometimes we gonna embellish what we got before we got it. And so he was like, "You got a manuscript, right?" I was like, "For sure. I got a manuscript."
Lies.
Absolutely. All lies, sis. All
Lies.
I had like 25 pages. I'm like, "How many pages y'all need?" He like, "Oh, like 60, between 60 and 80. I mean, man, I said, "Give me 2 months.
You.
I just want to revise them. I don't want y'all to see them like they, I just want to work with them a little bit." Just when I tell you I was pulling, I finesse, sis.
That's next week on Black and Published. I'll talk to you then. Peace.